Small Bridge didn't even exist by then. Probably
be more diverse and give that person a chance.
Living a lifestyle in Pakistan whilst doing the same off a regular wage.
And this is something that Jawad and I always offer,
Gujaratis, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, they're all together.
But are you willing to volunteer and watch over them kids?
Episode 3 of the Meet podcast. We've got 2 guests here. I'm actually going to introduce Asma. I wrote a few lines. Actually wrote a few lines for you, and then I thought who better to write more about you than D. So he added to it. So what I wrote was that you're an esteemed member of our community who has dedicated over 2 decades to empowering our youth. Worn various hats during this time, serving as a teacher, manager, leader, instructor, and a cherished friend as well. D, he added to this, he put, involved in the beautiful game of football for over 40 years as a player, involved in football coaching for over 25 years now, and has been managing a Sunday League team in Waterworth for over 20 years, still going strong, qualified FA football coach, has coached both in UK and abroad in the Middle East, a community champion who has used the sport of football to keep young people positively active and engaged and away from crime and antisocial behaviour, has received many awards for coaching and tireless volunteering, still coaching local kids every week, still going strong. So,
Mail back, accept.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to do an intro like that for Jawad, but I mean, he's a prominent community leader. By profession, he's a solicitor. He's also a counsellor, a governor at local schools. He wears a different hat every other hour. No doubt you'll hear more about him, and we'll give the opportunity for the listeners to hear his background. So we can start off with Asma, if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and tell our listeners about your background and the work you do within the community.
So a little bit about myself, really. Predominantly done a lot of my work in our community with football and sports itself, alhamdulillah. We've always tried to break down the barriers, really, from our young age, coming from a minority background as a Pathan in Rochdale. We were neither either on the what they call the Kashmiri side or the Punjabi side or the Bengali side. There was only a handful of Pathans within our community. You're going to tell me you're a Pathan as well?
No.
All right. But, alhamdulillah, I mean, I've recognised from a young age really that there is a massive divide. The upbringing and the schools that we went to were predominantly Pakistani and Bengali schools. So a lot of my friends have come from both sides. But when it came to sports and football in particular, there'd always be a separation. You'll all know Haybrook Field in how the size of it all and all the rest of it. There'll always be the Pakistani lads playing together and the Bengali lads playing together. That's just the way it's always has been. And it's always scratched my head in thinking, they're playing one sport, they're all similar ages, they've gone to the same schools, they've got friendships in schools, but when it comes out into the communities, there's a great divide. I mean, we were blessed in having a middle school at the time, and the school was split up into houses. So the housing school system was like, basically you get put in four coloured pots. And in school, the sports and everything else there was no really divide whatsoever. Absolutely never any divide in school. You'd be competing each other in all the sports, whether it be athletics, cricket, swimming, football, basketball, name it, we did it all in middle school. But as soon as we came out of school, that's where you'd see that there'd be a divide in there. And it always would peck me head in thinking, why are they always separate for? Why they just, why they're not mixing? Why don't they have matches or anything along them lines?
Did you ever figure it out?
The figuring out, I think it stems historically. I think with regarding the Pakistani and the Bangladeshi split, I think at that time, 40 odd years ago is where we're talking, because I was actually born in Pakistan, me myself. I came as a baby at 10 months old, with my elder 2 brothers and a sister. My younger brother and my sister, they were born here, but I think there was something there with the peers, my elder brother's age as the first ones to come here and go through the school. I think there was something there that it never really sit right within themselves.
Did you ever have a conversation with your brothers about it?
No, not really. Again, we're from an ethnicity that we've always been the minority, even in our own community.
Oh yeah. So
You understand? So I
with the
mean,
batons.
So it was
Okay.
never like,
so you felt kind of similar. Like,
yeah. I mean, the feelings were is like, I'd pick because I was a games I was a captain from age of 11. Me, when I went to middle school,
Yeah.
I was a captain of my house at that age, and as it's gone on, I'll always bring that down to that was probably the seed that was planted in me as what you might call a leader or whatever else was being house captain then. I mean, there was never any difference, whether it be Big Sid and everyone. He was in my house, so he was he was a good cricketer, he was a good footballer. So I'd always have him picked. We had lads from Belfield and they were all white lads, and we had likes of Wayne Feeney and Andrew Wakefield. They were rugby lads, and you'd always end up picking them and all the rest of it. There was never any divide. Even when we used to play football in the playground, we still would all play together. Royman, all these lads. These are the lads I went to school with. Still dear friends of mine. And
what about you, Jawad? You've obviously born and bred in Manchester. So did you have the similar experiences?
No, completely different, to be honest with you. Manchester, especially Cheetham Hill, where I was born and brought up, it's the most diverse. Cheetham Hill Road is the most diverse road in the country, more diverse than you'd expect London to be. So we never had such issues, to be honest with you. And I mean, there is a larger Pakistani community, Kashmiri community, and there is a sizable Bengali community as well as Indian Sikhs. And it's so cosmopolitan and so literally never had any issues whatsoever. We've always kind of played football and cricket. I was a cricketer rather than a footballer, and we've always got on pretty well. Never had disharmony in the community between the Muslims and even the non-Muslims. You'd get a bit of trouble at times, but that was usually due to criminal activity and gangs. But other than that,
So
as a
no
community,
race issues.
no. If there were race issues, it would be not amongst ourselves. So there's that surrounding areas were considered racist many years ago.
Oh, okay.
But growing up from Rochdale, we always used to hear about how troublesome Cheetham Hill was. Did you experience any of that during when you were growing up?
Yeah, so
That was a reputation.
it was, yeah, and probably rightly so, because there was a lot of crime, criminals, drugs, firearms, etc. So there's a lot of that. A lot of the gangs. So I'm born and bred in Cheetham. My father didn't send me to a local school because of that reputation. He sent me on 2 buses across Manchester to a school with a good reputation, a church school, and it's probably the best thing he ever did. Alhamdulillah. And since then, I suppose the area's improved. I'm involved in schools as well myself, so we've established some good schools in North Manchester, which are the best in Manchester now. One of the best in Manchester, 2 of the best, in fact. So education has always been an issue, and everyone has travelled. I call it the brain drain. People in North Manchester. So you've got the North and South divide between the North of England and the South of England. You've got the Mancunian divide. You've got North Manchester and South Manchester. You've got the nice suburbs of Chorlton and Didsbury, very middle class. A 3-bedroom house around here is probably £250,000 maximum. Same one in Didsbury, 750 grand. Schooling, all the grammar schools are in South Manchester. So there's nothing to keep. I'm probably one of the few people who was born and bred around here who still stays here. There's a bit of a story as to why I still stay here. I'll perhaps come on to that a bit later. So, but yeah, education for your children. You want a good upbringing for your children. You want a safe environment. You want them to have a safe upbringing and to be good children and good citizens. And ultimately, as Muslims, a good Muslim and a good citizen of this country. So that's why a lot of people, as they've grown up, and my friends who have prospered, have moved to the likes of Altrincham, Didsbury, where all the good schools are.
So what do you think would be the solution to what Azmat said?
I think just to clarify with regarding my point that I made, there was never any racism issues or fights as such between the Bengali lads and the Pakistani lads.
Yeah.
Again, like City, we were great friends, and we still are great friends within our community. Within Wadworth, you lads will know it yourself. For me, you would have never ever heard of the Bengali lads fighting with the Pakistani lads. If there was any issues with another neighbouring area, the Bengali lads and the Pakistani lads would come together to represent their
Yeah,
own
it's
little
more of
neighborhood.
an area thing.
But what I think the key, I think, or what I'm trying to point out more is that it's unfortunate that something like football or sport, what you think unifies people together, is probably the biggest divide within our community. You know, and it's not because of any hatred towards each other. It's just the way it's always been. It's always been like that. And there's never something that you can kind of mold it together and say, right, let's have a training session together.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, for years, you know, lads on Haybrook will always have their time slot at, let's just say 12:30. The Bengali lads will turn up. Before that, it'll be us that will be turning up. You know what I mean? There's never that, oh, come and join us. And I mean, I've run Warwood Football Club now for over, 20 odd years. This is my 23rd season bringing it in. And the doors have been always openly on, even on social,
section with you.
even as much as, social media now has got into play. When our pre-season starts, we open it up to absolutely everybody. If you've got a passion for it, if you've got a love for it, come down.
But have you ever openly asked? The reason why I say this, but it's true, I found it bizarre as well. Like, if you were to look at professional football, you don't look at what race. If they can score goals, look at Mo Salah. He's changed the culture of Liverpool.
Just and that's not easy to change the culture of Liverpool.
Yeah.
I mean, I've thrived in opening the doors up to everybody and anybody. I mean, just at this moment in time, I've got a few Bengali lads playing for our team. We've got obviously Pakistani lads playing in our team. I've got an Irish lad in net. I've got a lad from Sierra Leone. I've got 2 lads from Nigeria. I've got a lad from Portugal. And there's nothing any different to them apart from their passion for football.
But where do you think this racism stems from? Do you think history plays a part?
I think between Pakistanis and Bangladeshis, yes. I think in the past it has. And I think at times, historically, that's why, where the elder lads have not kind of warmed into wanting to. I mean, look, you've got tournaments that go in predominantly from the Bangladeshi community. And, he's my brother. He's not even a friend of mine. He's Duan. Him and me have been brought up together from age of 5. I love that guy to bits. His tournament that he puts on serves his community.
Yeah.
It doesn't really serve his community. And if he was here, I would have loved to have this conversation with him. It isn't because I'm just going to explain reasonings why. It's because his community is Warworth. Yeah. His community is not Ramsey Street.
Yeah.
You understand? So for that particular tournament, and it's gone on for years and years and years, for about 20 years deep, because I used to play in it years and years ago myself. I was one of the privileged ones to be able to play. Yeah. Because I used to play with anyone who's playing football. But it's never been opened up. And again, like I said to you, the excuse or the reason could be is that because we've got a whole load of lads together within our community as well. They've always been part of it, and there's not really scope for many of the teams to come along and participate in it. And I think that's where it's basically just said, fair enough then. And we've never really pursued it any further.
If I'm honest, because Dee's not here, so I don't know what his opinion would be. But the 1 or 2 times that I've seen it, there has been fights. So, and D is not a confrontational person. So whenever he's done a tournament, and it shouldn't be that way. If you the solution would be to have someone as a leader who's like, you're managing that, whoever's being brought in, say, Azmat, right, you're responsible for this group. If any messing around. And then that way, because it was the same when we used to go to out of town. If I would have a tournament from Rochdale to Oldham, first thing that they would say is, right, we're not in our own town.
Territorial, isn't it?
Yeah, so be careful, don't mess around. So you're kind of, when you're playing football, you're not playing football freely. You're reluctant. You think that they're going to start a fight or...
I mean, look, you're in like I say, one of the most multicultural areas around. I can guarantee you on it, the football tournaments that are held in this neighbourhood, there will always be some sort of kind of territorial kind of animosity between certain people and against certain people.
And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Jawad in, because how Cheetah Mill compares to Rochdale, in terms of like obviously what we see there, what we're talking about hatred. Do the Cheetah Mill fellas, do they get to see that sort of? Do they experience that as well?
It's never been. I don't think it's ever really been ethnic. It's been territorial. Like the Cheetah Mill lads might not get on with the long side or the Moss side groups. You know,
So why do you think that is then?
That's territorial, and it's usually related to drugs and power and control. But then there's been issues. There's been the odd incident with not Rochdale, I've heard, but like with lads from Bury and lads from Cheetah Mill. So again, it's usually territorial, and it's not Pakistani or Bengali or whatever. It's it's whoever. What I've found is that the lads have generally gelled quite well together in Manchester. When we've had football tournaments and my local masjid, I suppose the other thing is a lot of the masjids as well play a role in some of this, I think. So the masjid that I'm affiliated with, I've just left early from my Shura meeting. It's very diverse, very multicultural. You know, we've got quite close links with the Bangladeshi community as well. And, you know, perhaps that helps, but it's perhaps the location because of the elders. There were a lot of educated Pakistanis who came over in the 60s. They set up a charity, and we've got masjids all throughout the UK. That's the organisation that I volunteer with, and they're actually welcome and open to all sects, ethnicities, and I've never seen it as an issue. Everyone has always been welcome, and I've never considered it to be any type of mosque. So I think that's probably how it plays a role, and then part of it's parenting as well. I think a lot of the discussions, a lot of people are entrenched in their positions and historical positions and perspectives, that plays a role. And if those discussions are taking place at home, naturally the children, even if they're not listening, they're subconsciously taking it in. And I just think Manchester being a bigger city, more diversity, you don't have pockets of kind of certain communities. It's just so diverse. I mean, Cheetah Mill was known. This is the last sentence. I don't know the figures for this sentence, but people used to think it's a largely Muslim area. I've never really heard the term Pakistani area, but Muslim area. And the last census, which is out of date now, it was 46% or 45% Muslim. That's it.
Wow.
So less than half.
Oh, okay.
Perhaps now it's probably about 65%, I would suspect, but there's still a large proportion.
Was it always the case of they just try to mix it? Because the council have tried to do that, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, Cheetah Mill has always been the migrant area. You had the Jews came here, the Irish came before then. You've had the Asian community, you've had the West Indies. You've had the European community, and now you've got the European community, South Asian community. So it's always been an area where people have come, set up business, set up homes, and then moved on, prospered. So a lot of the people in North Manchester will go to Prestwich, Whitefield, Bury, nicer and wider areas. Similarly, I think in South Manchester you have Longside. So all the kind of well-to-do people who live in Altrincham and Hale, and these people usually have stemmed from Levenshulme and Longside. But as they prosper, they do. Better and buy bigger houses.
So on that note, how do you see the strength and contributions of your community to the larger community or society?
I mean, I would be lying if I said there's no discrimination or people didn't have certain beliefs or animosities. I think it does probably exist, but it's probably a lot less than what I'm hearing from Rochdale and other areas.
No, to be honest, I think we exaggerate it. Yeah, I mean, we get along really well.
Animosity is probably the wrong word.
Yeah.
But, you know, kind of
he's talking
prejudices,
about,
perhaps.
Yeah.
You know
what you mentioned as on it's old a lot because they've experienced it.
Yeah. Some of them have come through partition.
What you mentioned,
the war,
so the parenting, so it's been passed on to their kids, and they've had that. Because otherwise, how are you to know? We've never experienced it. We never got to experience it.
Like I said to you again, I think it was just that particular era at that time when they first came over.
Makes sense, yeah.
You know, the first batch of people that came over from Pakistan and Bangladesh. You know, my elder brother, when he came, he was a 9-year-old lad. You understand? So he was basically a Pakistani coming in this country with no other language whatsoever apart from Pashto. That's all he knew. You know what I mean? And there would be families from Bangladesh with some of their lads that they would be coming through at that age, and they could only speak Bengali. You know, that was it. I mean, for them to try to build a reputation and maybe kind of stand their ground within communities, maybe they needed to feel as if that we need to come together a little here. That this is us as Pakistanis and this is you guys as Bangladeshis and that type of thing. But again, even my brothers went to the same school as we did. We went Albert Cross, and I mean, there was never ever any issues within there because they've got very, very close friends from the Bangladeshi community as well. Just to mention the territory itself, Rochdale itself, it ran an Asian league about 25 years ago. It was the first time 2 lads from Scotland, they decided to create this Asian league. So there was a team from Scotland, from Newbold, the lads from Ramsey, Uslop from KYP, Kashmir Youth Project at the time. You had lads from not Smallbridge didn't even exist by then probably, from Tweedle Street and Deeplish. So they all played each other on a Sunday afternoon. Okay. Before that, we used to play in them areas because I went to a school in a predominantly now Punjabi area. So I've been brought up in Wardenworth. My eldest brother, he was a mechanic up in Castleton, which was a little bit out of the way. And that community, all the kids that went to that school were from Punjab. You understand? So us two have gone into that particular school. We've had whatever troubles that we had just to kind of get our feet under the ground, and maybe had a couple of people in a few more headlocks than we should have. But that was another story in itself. We started to play football because we realised that they've got a football team up there. So I said, all right, I'll bring some lads from my area and we'll come and play yours. And before you know it, there was like a network of players and teams playing against each other, between ages of, like, say, 16 to 18, 19. And then this league came along, and now there's something to play for. And, like, say, massive territorial kind of battles. They were brilliant games. I mean, they were quality footballers all over, but, like I say to you, you get that extra spike in, wanting to, not beat them up, but you want to win. You know what I mean? You're representing your neighbourhood. And I remember the lads from, when we used to play our own lot, as we call them, from Borderwood, the Bengali lads, D and Jam and all of them lot. We never used to play hard with them lot. Never.
It was like a friendly.
Because it was like, they were like us, you know what I mean? They were from our neighbourhood. But when we used to play against the lads up Tweedle Street and Deeplish, bro, like, say to you, you know what I mean? It was on. Yeah, it was on.
Everyone's right.
Because, like, say to you, because there was something to play for. There was something to play for. But again, it kind of made us probably the men that we are now, in that kind of, that determination, that extra gear, that extra, you know what I mean, wind that you get in your sail to kind of compete, to push yourself on to win by all means. And let me just put this on radio or whatever is going on. My team at Kashmir FC at the time, the league ran for 2 years. Yeah. We won the league twice and we won the cups twice. So we won the double-double. So there you go.
Champion.
Alhamdulillah.
Awesome. Another point is probably worth mentioning is, I think, because Manchester's such a big city, we were minorities in school. So most of the South Asians, we were actually always minorities. We were just a handful of us in school. So
it was a little different.
Do you know what? That
Completely
is very interesting that you said that, because this is a point I was going to make. I think the togetherness came from that, because when you're a minority, you try and...
So you get all the ethnic minorities together.
Because we've been a number of years, we've been in Gloucester. Like, I've got my mum's side there, a big community there, and Gujaratis, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, they're all together. They've always got mixed friends. It's not where this is a group, this is a group.
I think because there's enough issues going on outside, there's enough obstacles and racism and whatever else, and therefore it makes sense that you club together.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably what it is.
This is it.
But it used to be a taboo sort of subject before, when interracial marriages used to not, when they used to take place. There was less of it, but now you see more of it now, which is good to see, because in the Muslims especially, it's good to see that race doesn't actually play a part. I mean, what Jawad touched upon before, sometimes you get within the same caste of a Pakistani background or something, having issues. So it's good to see different races together.
I actually wanted to put you on a scenario here, because sometimes you feel as though actually there are unity and everything. So what I would say is, if you've got a daughter and then there's 2 proposals. One, English, white male, but Muslim, really good person, everything ticks the box. And his deen is really high. And then the other is just average, he prays here and there, what would you go with in terms of a proposal? Because this is the thing where, even though we know in Islam,
Tough question.
it's a very
No, it's a good question, though. Good question. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first.
I'm ready for it, though.
So, I mean, I've got a daughter who's 21 years old.
Yeah.
She's going into a final year at university now. So, I mean, as a parent, you're already thinking probably when the ages are between, 17, 18, you're already thinking that, this gift that I have at home, at some point, very soon, I'm going to have to be giving this gift to somebody else. And maybe I'm a little bit old-fashioned to a slight degree. Probably I'm old-fashioned, but, if we were able to find someone within our own, let's call it tribe, Pashto speaking, knows our culture a little bit, in a sense that we've kind of know what they're about. If we're able to identify within the family that particular person is a good person in a good family, then that will always outweigh somebody from the outside.
even though they're better.
Better, man can change. Man can change
Yeah.
in at any time. I wouldn't just go off just that and say, right, that guy's bang on now,
Yeah.
because he could be acting it.
No,
You know what I mean? He could be
glad-
acting it just
yeah,
to get the prize, as they say. You know what I mean? Like, let's be, I'm a straight up type of person.
No, I'm
in that
glad
way.
you're
But
giving that good,
So-
honest answer.
it's, because, I mean, within my culture and within my own self, if I know that family, let's just say if it was to get married to within our tribe, and I know that person or whoever they may be, let's just say from Bradford, Sheffield. Let's say Sheffield, because my father's family, God rest his soul, they're all from there. Let's just say someone in Sheffield. I've already built a relationship with that family member. I already know about them. I know their history. I know what their family are about. I know how strong they maybe are within their deen or not. I know whether if they've done halal kamai, as they say, or maybe haram kamai. You know what I mean? I've got a little bit of an understanding about them already through years of kind of knowledge and that relationship with them. Now, if someone was to come to the door and say, listen, I'm such and such, I'm a really good Muslim and all the rest of it, high up on their deen and all the rest of it, and all, however it may be. Well, I've not got enough knowledge upon that person in who they are and what they are.
Would you not give them a chance?
I'd give him a chance to speak. Yeah, of course.
That's about it. isn't
He's
it?
got his fist up. He's got his fist up.
No, I'm cool.
I don't know.
No.
Okay.
It's a fair response, because the main thing is, if you got a daughter, obviously I don't have a daughter. I got two sons, and if I had a daughter, I'd be more. I don't know how to say that. I'd be more of a father.
Cautious.
Yeah, I'd be more cautious. So I'll have the same response, and I would
This is why I
want.
chose daughter.
Yeah, and the divide there is basically, I'm Bengali, yeah, and if I had a daughter and she grew up, and someone came to me, personally, I would want someone, just like you're saying, someone same background, same language, same upbringing, so you know how that person kind of moves.
Yeah.
But if a person like Ad was just saying, came up to your door and said like, I'm such and such, would you accept me?
He's going to give his fist up again.
No.
No, but you should. But the thing is, you should be able to be more open, be more diverse, and give that person a chance.
Absolutely. I mean, look, the thing is, we've been traditionally, back in the day, a lot of my age people, and just before me, would always look to get married from back home. You know what I mean? That was it was a safe bet in comparison to what back in the day they were thinking of.
We can't do that
you
no
know what I mean?
more.
Right?
There's a situation that comes with it, there's contracts and all that.
Well, you know what I mean? And
2 years and that's it, they're gone.
Right.
With the child and passport. And what's the
By the
craziest
way,
thing is,
it's 5 years now, isn't it?
it literally happens.
Oh
10
yeah,
years
you guys are
possibly.
the
How
other
ironic,
side.
how weird though. It happens on the day they get legal. They run off with the 2 kids, because it's only 2 years, right? 2 kids.
Yeah.
Money, domestic violence, blah, 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 and they don't.
Yeah.
And
That's a generalization.
It is.
Yeah, let's
No,
not.
it happens. It happens.
Let's
Fair
not
enough.
put it
I mean,
yeah.
like I say, it's if we were to kind of if you know, with regarding family, I mean, there's a few less hurdles that you need to jump over because you already know who they are.
No,
You know, just in my experience,
I'm glad you're not giving a diplomatic answer because lineage is part of it.
My language, the language that I speak, very quickly is gonna kind of dissolve.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying I'm proud in that manner, but I like my children. Yeah, I like my children and I like my grandchildren to be able to speak and have a connection with their relatives back home. I like them to want to think of home still being from Pakistan because the father is from Pakistan, born there. The mother is from Pakistan, born there. Both my parents, God rest both their souls, they're from Pakistan. You know,
But do you think the newer generation are losing
of course,
that touch?
Of course, yeah. And this is
there is more
your new village.
Marriages now.
No, your new village is your community. You know within your own community who is a good person. Let's just say, as you say, you want to put them on that kind of pedestal of being good or bad. You know who's been a good person. You will already know if a person is practicing Islam, for example, within your community. You will know who the ones that are not within your community. So within our community and within our society, like you say, you see these marriages now going from, like say, mixing, you know, between different ethnicities. But that's more of that's still a safe bet for me. Because if I know the family, you know, within, let's just say, Rochdale or Waterworth, at least I've got an understanding of who that person is.
But would you still have that point if there was, a white male, you know the family? It was your neighbour.
Yeah, well, listen,
For 30 years.
For 30 years. Let's go. Yeah, but we don't want to get you off the hook. You've still not given your answer.
Bro, look, like I said to you, when you know your community, whether it be white, black, purple, or yellow, you know your community. You know that person. Remember, you're going to be gifting, and may Allah Pak bless you with a daughter for you to understand what I'm saying about the most precious gift that you could possibly think
100%,
of.
yeah.
But
You understand? You know that gift. You can't take them chances in thinking.
No, yeah.
You know,
you
need to. You know,
that's why I use daughter.
It's the most difficult decision that you would ever consider.
Definitely. But you know, just touching upon that, I've seen many of my friends. I mean, they reach late 30s before they get married because the choices are limited these days. So, are you not narrowing down the choice where it's already narrowed down anyway?
This is a good point because I knew he was a Shia, but he's also looking for someone who's his own caste, like a Sayyid, I think. So I was like, okay, so there's like 10% Shia here. From that, how many percent is his caste? And then you're looking at someone who is a suitable person. How many is there? Out of 15 people,
I mean,
and four of them.
I guess that's why, you know, your spouse has been written so many thousands of years ago.
But this is it's a textbook answer. It's one of those where people go, you know what, my risk is written, so I'm not going to look for a job. Do you mean you should?
You have to make an effort.
You have to
look
make an effort. Do you think
the first step?
What Islam has prescribed to you? Do that.
You know, the thing is, I mean, look, a 21-year-old, because my daughter's 21.
Yeah.
She can't make a life decision at 21.
Yeah.
I don't believe that she's got the knowledge and the skill of general
you're
life.
protector. Yeah.
You understand? Whereas me at 46 has got more understanding of what life is all about, a little bit more than what she has. So it's my job to guide and suggest and to try to mold her into a way that whatever is, you know what I mean, whatever her spouse would be, then inshallah that's going to be chosen in the right way, in the best of ways, and not just as a knee-jerk kind of reaction to somebody maybe gifting her a couple of presents and saying, oh, and all of a sudden the girl falls for her, and then you're thinking, well, you know, is that the right way of doing it? There's got to be, you know, Islam teaches us that type of action should not be happening. That's why, like I say to you, pre-marriage relationships and girlfriend and boyfriend and all that stuff, it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how many of them have, for example, got met up in school and they had that relationship, and before you know it, they feel as if, oh yeah, that was the right person. And I always say, well, how did that relationship start? Was it halal or was it haram?
Yeah. All of a sudden they become religious.
All of a sudden they'll start throwing the book at you. They say, oh no, yeah, this is how it is and all the rest of it. But how did it all start? Yeah. How did it all start? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I said to you, it's a great subject, a great topic, and I'm glad you've asked, and I hope I've answered it in the best of my way. And I'm gonna
How long do I have? Seriously, how long do I have? Because this is a
Do you have a
topic
daughter?
that I've got two.
Okay.
And your wife's going to be listening to this at
Yeah,
some
so
point.
this is a topic very close to my heart.
Is it? Okay.
But I ask how long have I got because it's a long answer. I'll try to keep it brief as appropriate if I know how long I've got.
Go for it.
Yeah. So Cheadle Mosque. I was involved at the time with MCOM, Manchester Council of Mosques. We had a meeting, and a very dear friend of mine who passed away. Allah have mercy on him. Yusuf Dar, he was there, and he said to me, this is going back about 13, perhaps even longer, 14 years at Cheadle Mosque, and he said to me, we have a crisis on our hands. This is going back then. I said, what crisis? He says, look, we were talking about all these other issues, and he said, look, one of the biggest crises we have, he was an ex-police officer, and I think he did a spell in Rochdale, and he said, is women, young sisters, our daughters, who are of the age of marriage and are not getting married. And he said, the epicenter is Rochdale. This is back then, he said to me.
Wow.
And so I was like, come on. I mean, obviously being from Manchester, so this is news to me. I said, well, tell me a bit more about it. He says, we have our daughters, our sisters who are kind of early 30s, late 30s, late 20s. And of course, for ladies, there's an age by which they, if they want to have children and a family, they ought to be married. And he says, there's a crisis. And he says, what are we doing? We have all these barriers in place, all these cultural sensitivities and whatnot. And there's a lot of depth and reason, but I won't go into it. But that was back then. That situation has just got considerably worse now. But it's not only that. I would go so far as to say that we've got the problem within our brothers as well. Traditionally, naturally, as most of us are more concerned about our daughters, making sure that they get married relatively young to protect them, etc. I get all that. But whilst doing that, we've actually forgot about our boys and our sons. And the crisis is probably exacerbated now. We've got so many boys now who are not getting married, who are late in marriage, as well as sisters. And part of the reason for this is because of all these cultural sensitivities that we have, such as ethnic. Forget ethnic. I'll just give you an example of the Pakistani community, and I'm sure it's probably no different to the Bengali community. If you're a Punjabi or you're a Pathan, within that you have caste, don't you? Yeah. So the Punjabis have a whole degree of caste, and a lot of these issues that we're experiencing actually stems from the subcontinent, and it's that Indian culture where we all stem from. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of that cultural baggage with our weddings, with our ceremonies that we have, we still carry that baggage, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. Yeah. Which is so simple and pure. So because we're hell-bent on getting married to someone from our caste, and traditionally most men, especially in the Pakistani community, would always get married from Pakistan. It's a must. And if someone broke that norm and got married, even in my own family, I'm the only one who got married in the UK. My brothers, my siblings, they're all, bar my younger sister actually, are married from Pakistan. And if I look at my family, extended family, it's exactly the same. And one of the issues, and the reason why the Pakistani community is has the issues that it has, is what we were doing is we were getting our boys married in Pakistan to bring good, a kind of dutiful daughter-in-law from Pakistan who would look after, and it's not even their role, their in-laws. So when they get old, they had someone to cater for them. It's absolutely bonkers. And because of that, we've lost, and the girls, mashallah, are educated, very smart, intelligent. The last thing you want to do is go to probably Bangladesh or Pakistan. So they're getting older. And if you look at the numbers, because a lot of the men have gone to Pakistan to bring their wives over, the girls have got no one to marry. What are they supposed to do? Within the Pakistani community, and then of course the parents want you to get married to a Jat if you're a Jat, a Gujjar if you're a Gujjar, a Kashmiri, a Raja, and whatever else. So you've got all these divisions. And,
there's
fast
arrogance in that.
Again, it's cultural. A lot of them, unfortunately, it's a lack of intellect and a lack of deen, and actually not comprehending what this religion is about. Fast forward to now, so from 13, 14 years ago, a doctor friend who runs a matrimonial. So I do a bit of matrimonial work as well with charitable stuff, not for fee, where we try to arrange marriages or we introduce people with Altering a Mosque. So Altering a Mosque and Kezira Mosque do this together. And what I found is, in fact, now you're at a stage where one of our volunteers who does a lot of this work said, for every man, you've got an option potentially of 8 or 9 women. So there's a crisis on our hands when it comes to marriage. And of course, everyone's educating more and doing more degrees, and which is great. And we need an educated Muslim population, Muslim and non-Muslim. But of course,
Are you saying there's more women?
There's more women statistically than men who need to get married, because there's still a proportion of men still go in Pakistan. I don't know about Bangladesh. I know the Gujarati community doesn't go to India. By and large, they'll just from Leicester, they'll come to Manchester or Bolton, and they'll find a suitable spouse. So there's these huge issues. So probably trying to get back to the question that you asked. So because of all these divisions and castes, I think that's a thing of the past gradually. I see the merit in the argument because, for example, where my family's from, I mean, when I grew up, I wasn't aware of even what caste I belonged to. All I knew was I was a Muslim, and that's it. I didn't know until my late teen years about these issues. My parents never talked about it, and it was only then that I found out where I was from. And we're from Kashmir, but we're not actually from Pakistani Kashmir. We're from Jammu, the Indian-administered Kashmir. So all that kind of came about, and I understood it a bit more. And there are cultural sensitivities around. So we're known, for example, we're meat eaters. We're known for eating, half a lamb a person. So we're known for that kind of. So culturally, and the way you eat, the way you drink, you're kind of, so each kind of group of people where you're from has these sensitivities. So that's the benefit of marrying within that. But I would say we're at such a crisis that, so it used to be caste. It used to be the village and the caste. You'd have to be from Sylhet, then you'd have to be from the village and the same avenue. And that's the thing of the past. Then when that faded away, they said, right, so long as it's someone from Sylhet or from Jhelum or from Lahore, that's the thing of the past. Now they're saying, so long as it's someone from my district, Punjabi or a Pathan, that's even gone now. Now they're saying, at least he's Bengali or Pakistani. Well, even that's gone. We've come to the stage where people are actually saying, so long as they marry a Muslim. And you know what's going to come after that? There's other kind of issues as well moving forward.
Yeah, this was my point as well.
So there's wider issues. So there's so many issues that we have. I think a lot of it's down to your tarbiyah, as you talked about that. You touched upon it really well. It's about how you bring up your children, and that will really determine where they go. Ultimately, as a father of 2 daughters and 2 boys as well, it's something that's been playing on my mind.
How old are they?
So my eldest is 16, my youngest is 9, and I told my wife to start looking.
No way.
Years ago. When I say looking, I mean, look, if they don't, no, genuinely, seriously.
Honestly, what, 16?
The reason I say that is not to getting married, of course. I mean, we live in a society where I will never force my children to get married or force them who to get married to. But suitors, if they don't, for example, I know my eldest son, great lad, but it's one of those where he may well ask for us to introduce someone to him. And if we come across someone who is suitable, and again, the criteria I'll come on to in a second, then I will be suggesting that my son, look, it's about time. And I want to have grandchildren. I want to, be able to enjoy grandchildren and have that kind of lifestyle as well. So there's all those factors, but it's a complex area. And it's an area that the Asian community, whether you're Bengali, Indian, Pakistani, you need to pay a lot of attention to.
This is the reason why I gave that example as specifically, because people are now more inclined to Asian Muslim.
You see,
but not as much with a white male.
Yeah, well, reverts are kind of more of a common phenomenon now. You've got more and more. But I know lots of reverts who've married Pakistani women and vice versa, even Bengali. So that is certainly opening up more and more. The question, I think, was, what would you do if it was your daughter? I think that's a very, very pertinent question. It's a tough question. But I think the more kind of Islamic you are, the more you're inclined to that way. I just want my child to marry a good Muslim. And I would do a lot of research into that person. I would do a lot of research into that, whether it's a revert. I mean, people come to me and ask me, this person. And I tell you to people, just like when I got married, my brother-in-law asked the whole of North Manchester. My wife's from another area of Manchester. The reputation that comes with Cheetah Mill. So they made so many inquiries. about me, and I respect them, and I think you should have done. I'll probably make
It's their
more
duty, isn't
inquiries
it?
for my
Yeah,
child,
yeah,
my children.
Yeah, it's their
Yeah,
duty,
of
isn't it,
course,
to have a
yeah.
look? Of course it is. I mean, for
as a
a father, as a
For-
you know,
for
you
a
have
son
to,
and
you know,
for a
have to.
daughter,
Of course, you
equally,
have to. You have to.
Yeah, whilst we
No,
remain
there's
on
a
this-
reason for that. I mean, you're a protector.
Yeah, of
A
course you
woman
are.
can't get married without their wali.
No, absolutely. I mean, even without going on there, remember you've raised this child.
Yeah.
I keep saying this precious gem,
Yeah.
the most precious in the house.
Yeah.
She's your daughter.
Yeah.
100%.
You understand? When you know, I've got 2 daughters and 2 sons myself. You know, the lads, the lads get a good hiding here and there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Whilst
But my daughters are different because
Yeah,
in,
Daddy
even,
girls,
even,
mummy
Everyone
boys.
says, yeah,
even
everyone
when,
says
you know,
that.
when-
Yeah, everyone says that.
even from when they're born,
yeah.
from
Yeah.
when they're born, you'll always know that one day she's not going to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right from when they're born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let alone when it comes to when they're in their 20s now.
Yeah.
And you know that soon, you know, that it's gone.
Yeah.
And you like say to you, it's like say it's an emotional kind of
Topic.
feeling, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, within
yeah.
your own self to think, how's that going to be?
You're going to be a good father-in-law.
Inshallah. Inshallah,
It's
inshallah.
good though, because when you're firm with your daughter, it puts you in a good position. You're going to get a good son-in-law, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Because what's happening now is a lot of fathers, they're neglecting their daughters,
Mhm.
just letting them be. You know, whatever you want to do. When it comes to marriage, that's when there's a broken
Always issues.
barrier. And then they'll be like,
It's-
okay, what's going on now? Because
It's such a tragedy
Yeah.
that we often don't invest in our daughters. I've had
Yeah.
people say to me, and I won't mention any names, I put my boys through grammar school, paid a fortune for them, and sent the girls to local primary schools or local comprehensive. Like, why not? Well, the idea was my boys are going to look after me in my old age. And I look at them same people, and it's the daughters that look after them in their old age.
Yeah.
And it's a travesty that we have this discrimination amongst our own, in our own, circles, in our own families.
No, and what you said earlier about
Lineage.
people going Pakistan to get married, and the reason for that is
It's a travesty.
the girls are going to look after their parents.
That's
and-
traditionally the reason. I
But
mean,
you
I'd be
don't see it
lying if I
always.
said
You're getting
otherwise.
married
I mean,
for yourself.
Listen,
and-
you know, I know a lot of Bengali lads at my age, went my school, they went back home and got married.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
both
it was the norm.
exactly the
It
same
was
as the
a
norm.
yeah, same
It
thing.
was the
It's
norm, yeah.
One
100%.
reason, you know, don't forget, you know, I'm from a village back home. You know, my father was a farmer. He was, you know, it was a kind of poor background.
That's where you
And
get
how-
your leadership from.
And how, my dad's my biggest hero. Of course he
Yeah,
is. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Of course he is, alhamdulillah. But like I said to you, there was one of the reasons why we got married within the household and within the family, you know, extended family, is really that we know that family, they're not
Safety
they're not
and
set up.
security.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you're given an opportunity for that daughter then to hopefully be comfortable.
Yeah, you
To
feel
be
more
able to help
comfortable.
them, their family as well, and their family. So you're not just marrying that particular person just because of that person. You actually married him because of, you know, that you're helping that side of the family out as well.
Yeah.
So you kind of, on the long run, you're doing not just the girl that comes over to this country to live here. You're also looking after her sister, her brother, her parents, with a little bit of whatever sadaqah that you could possibly give towards it, because you feel a little bit more because you've got married to their daughter, and that little bit helps them out as well.
Yeah, that was the case, and that was the cause at the time. But things have moved on so much
When
now.
you got married, you mentioned that everyone else got married back home from your family, except yourself. Did you have the difficulty?
No, I mean,
Personal
then
experience.
to be honest with you, my situation was where my mother knew someone, and,
Oh, okay.
and they wanted to get married,
so it was
so
easy.
it was a case that was quite easily done. And we kind of knew the family as well, so it was again one of those. It was written, but otherwise, the initial plan was to go Pakistan. It was for all of us.
Oh, okay.
You know, when you grow up, you're actually taught and you're encouraged and you're coerced into an expectation that you will go to Pakistan or Bangladesh.
Your
That's
life
the
would have been
reality.
different.
But you
And
see
I
less and
understand-
less of that.
Yeah,
people
I mean,
going
to be
back home
honest
now.
with you, I look at the problems as a lawyer that I see and the huge cultural clash that we have now with people coming from Pakistan and Bangladesh. There's a huge. It's not like it used to be. Maybe there's less bardash. I don't know whether you understand that terminology.
Yeah.
Less patience and sabr, and of course we're becoming more European, and therefore divorces on the increase. It doesn't matter whether you're from Pakistan or Bangladesh. It's just divorces seems to be what's the word? Pandemic or it's
No, I think the way the law is, it actually promotes it.
Well, they made it a lot easier to be divorced now. It's very easy.
No,
in the
what
UK.
they've created. No, what I mean is the ones coming back from back home, because what they'll do is what Jimmy mentioned. It's a trick. They've got a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. They ready for it.
Yeah, there's certainly more of those
it's
allegations
so common.
forward.
No, I think the problem is nowadays, historically, you used to have women, the idea of getting married, you think, they're homely girls, you bring them here, they'll do their duties.
Cook and clean.
Here. But now they've become more Western. So they're actually following the Western society, and then you get that now.
No,
so,
I'm talking about the ones who, they pretend to, like, domestic violence,
and then
have
you
a
get
child.
that. Yes.
So then they know they're going to get the benefits. And as soon as they've got their stay, the domestic violence court cases.
We won't comment on that.
We won't comment on that. But
I think, unfortunately, that's
very common.
it
I couldn't
happens.
believe
It does happen as well, though. It does happen, and some of those cases, honestly,
I've experienced
Two of my
It'll
friends
happen
has
probably-
actually experienced it.
It'll probably happen with marriages that are here as well.
Yeah.
It'll probably happen with marriages that are here as well.
Of course.
Yeah. This is it.
Well,
Well,
I don't think
in every country. You don't want to actually paint everyone.
I think
the same
again, I think the onus of marriage. We used to call them arranged marriages. I remember when I used to work, and the lads were from here, from England, English lads, and they say, "You've had an arranged marriage." I go, "Yeah." You go, how did that happen? What because I was a Jack the Lad type of lad when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Well, my
You don't
mates,
look like the type.
they were surprised that I got married at such a age. You go, "How have you got married?" So I mean, it was a shotgun proper marriage. But anyway, they'd always be bewildered. What arranged marriage? Because there was like a taboo kind of word about it. It's as if you've been forced and you've been dragged on plane, and that was it. But the arranged marriage, Islamically, is absolutely bang on. Why? Because the parents are the ones that are helping arranging it.
Yeah.
That's this is what I was trying to explain.
And
to
your parents know you, better than yourself.
My mother said to me, God rest her soul, I kicked up a fuss, me, when she, because I went Pakistan, me, at 21, with my father and my mum. I used to travel everywhere my dad
They
went.
tricked you.
No, listen, there's no trick. I went through uni and everything,
Just
you know what I mean?
and then
Like,
say
sit here
Kabul and you're all right.
So, second year of uni, my dad, we went Pakistan. And my dad was at well, and he goes, "Oh, son, should we get you married off here now?"
While you're here, you might as well.
Yeah, exactly. He goes, "Oh, you make us happy," and all the rest of it. And me and my dad had a really, really strong relationship, you know what I mean, in that sense. Because I was the son that stayed at home, you see, to do the khidmat, both mum and dad's, yeah. So I said to him, I'm not getting married yet. I'm too young, you know what I mean? I'm still at uni. He goes, "When are you going to get married then?" I go, "I'll get married after uni." Thinking uni's going to be well far away, in my head.
Yeah.
So anyway, uni came around quick like that and finished.
Yeah.
So now a couple of months down, I'm working away and all the rest of it, and my mum gives me the eyes like that, one of them, come here, like, so gone upstairs and she goes, "Right." She goes, "Oh, we found someone for you." I go, "You know what? I'm not even getting married yet." Where's all this come from? And my mum, she was a small lady, alhamdulillah, an angel in herself. She goes, "Oh, we found someone for you." And I said, "What do you mean you found someone for me?" I go, "Show us a picture then." She goes, "What do you mean?" I was like, she goes, we don't do that. She goes, "We don't do that." I remember I've been married now 23 years, mashallah. Back then it was like, "Yo, what you on about?"
You see them on the first night type of thing.
Yeah.
That would be the thing on the
So
first,
she explained to me who she was.
See, that's a no-go.
Listen,
That's not Islamic.
Absolutely not.
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, like such a
But
culture,
I know what you
tradition, and
mean
respect
about
in
the parents
within ourselves and all the rest of it. So, long story, but very short. She goes, "Look, don't you trust me?" She said, "Don't you trust me, son?" I go, "Of course I trust you. I trust you with everything." She goes, "You're making the biggest decision." She goes, "Your mother will make the best of decisions for me." She goes, "Trust me." I said, "All right." I go, "But not yet." She goes, "No, she's ready to get married. Their family are ready to get her married off. I want you to get married as well." I said, she goes, "Look, and this was basically what tipped it for me." She goes, "Oh, she's a Quran Hafiz." And like that, I said, in my own self,
So I never
I'm
knew
already
that.
thinking.
Wow.
I'm already thinking in myself. Then straight away, I thought, my kids, inshallah, they will be guided at least in the best of way. If I can't guide them, because like say I was wobbly everywhere, at least the mother will be there to kind of be the best of teachers, like my mother was for me. You know what I mean? So that was it. And alhamdulillah, it's lasted 23 years, a life sentence. But there you go.
I mean, it's well-known fact, isn't it? Generally, they last a lot longer, arranged marriages.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've been told
Yes.
that.
But remember, arranged marriages were not something just, common in South Asians. It used to happen in Europe as well, even in this country.
Yeah.
The parents
They had
would
a
choose.
chaperone.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that, historically, culturally, throughout the world, a lot of cultures used to do it. But
No, I don't see a problem with arranged marriage.
No,
I think
absolutely.
It should be Islamically, you get, it's almost like a recommendation,
that's right.
but go through the process and you get shown the picture.
I mean, like I say, it's
Have
different.
a chaperone.
Bro, it's different.
I
I mean, my side of Pakistan. Let me tell you, where we're from. When I went to Pakistan, I mean, we had no TV in the house.
Yeah.
My mum's brothers, they were both Quran Hafiz. When you see pictures, and just to get it in your head, when you see the pictures of like Taliban,
Yeah.
that was like that side of the family. They were solid in that. Their deen and iman was on a different level. When I kind of look at how it is now, they were solid, bro. I mean, like say my celebration was 20 odd AK-47s getting shot up in the air. There was none of that ball gear, none of this sing along and all that. They were men. You know what I mean? They were like, you talk about what men are like. Yeah,
farmers with the guns.
That's it. That's what it was.
The real men.
And I
cavemen.
say that to people. No, they go.
I wanted to actually touch on that because
what was all that about?
a lot of the times, people's opinion comes from their own personal experience.
Yeah.
But like you've had a really good experience. Like your wife happened to be an amazing woman, but it doesn't mean that is the only way. Like I've found this with a lot of people where their personal experience has created this opinion. But that's why I always try and match it with Islam. I go, okay, this is a really good experience you've had. Let me see if it matches with Islam. So this is the 4 criteria that it needs to follow. And if it matches, like immediately, Quran Hafiz, and you see the family and your mum's recommending, these are all, really good. Straight away, you look at the positives. But I would have said at least one meeting.
Like now, I mean, look, my siblings, they've married in many different places. I mean, my eldest brother, he got married within our village, but out of the family. My sister, she married an Englishman in the UK. My other brother, he got married to a girl from my father's side from Burnley. I got married from Pakistan from my mother's side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My younger brother, he's got married a couple of times. He's from our own bloodline, and then went out of bloodline, and then from someone from down south, for example. I'm just saying, it is what it is. Our youngest sister, she married within the family, and then that didn't work out, and then she's married a Kashmiri lad, and alhamdulillah, 2 kids and happily ever after.
This is
Alhamdulillah, but I mean, I think one thing I like to just kind of, maybe it's a little diversion of it is, but I think too many people are scared of marriage.
Yeah.
I think too many people are scared of it, bro.
I think so.
That's one of the reasons why they're
Find
delaying
someone,
it.
praise the car, and then
That's it, go
I've
for it.
had- I've had people say to me, because I'm quite passionate about marriage and encouraging people to get married and stuff, and doing it the right way and doing it sooner rather than later. I've had guys, accountant for example, I said, how old are you? He says 27. I said, you married, children? He says, no. He says, why not? And he said to me, well, I'm just settling down. So you're driving a BMW car, you're an accountant, you've got your own house. For goodness sake, what else you want? What's stopping you? So I don't know what it is. He was a bit embarrassed, I suppose. But he said, I'm nearly there. So, what else do you want? And part of the problem is, I think the bar's getting higher and higher. This is another, I have 2 points I'd like to make.
The pressure.
People want particular criteria, qualifications, this ideal woman or ideal man. And let's be honest, no one's ever ideal, although I've got the ideal wife, alhamdulillah. But more often than not, she's not going to meet all your criteria.
No.
So, but again, we've got guidance
have
to
to
follow, haven't we?
compromise,
So
yeah.
we've got guidance. So long as that guidance is by and large there, we accept it. That's one of the issues. But I'm pleased to say that, you know, the thing of marrying from Pakistan or Bangladesh and actually marrying within the Muslim community, for example, it was unheard of for a Pakistani, you know, it's always been relatively acceptable and common to marry a Punjabi marrying a Pathan or whatever else, although it's not easy, but it's been more acceptable. But marrying a Gujarati or a Bangladeshi for a Pakistani was difficult. But alhamdulillah, I think things have moved on quite a bit. Now in the UK, I know so many people, Pakistanis marrying Gujaratis, Bengalis marrying Pakistanis, and a lot of the factors are usually of piety and families and sensible and decent people because we know each other. We're established there. You know, I've got children. I'll probably have grandchildren soon. So when you have that kind of setup where you've got, you know, 3-4 generations of people, you're pretty well known. You'll know other people that you're looking to get, you know, your children likely to get married to. So you can do your research. And of course, you're not going to get 100% certain, you know, spouse, are you? That you all have all the guarantee and so. But again, I always tell people from a legal perspective, you can have a contract with your wife. If you're worried because you've got 2 houses and a Rolex watch and you don't want to give that away, then put it in a contract. It's perfectly Sharia accepts it. English law doesn't accept it by the letter, but it does. The courts do look at it quite closely. So you can do all this, but we're too concerned and worried about what they might think rather than.
I think that all comes down to as well. Men nowadays are not the men in the 80s, 90s. You know this. Everyone knows this. We come from, look, I'm 36 and I come from the 80s, 90s, growing up in the 90s, all of us. Now, it's different. Men are different now. They're not even men. People are in their 30s acting like kids. So they don't have the mentality to get married young.
Immaturity.
Yeah. Do you get what I mean? That's
because
that's just gone.
One of the issues I've always had within our community, and I'm talking about generally the Muslim community, South Asian community, we mother our children too much. We don't give them any independence.
That's the biggest issue.
And then, and one of this, probably not one of your questions, but I'll come on to it whilst I've got the opportunity. And what that's leading to is lots of issues when our parents pass away, with fighting over the estates and the houses and stuff and whatnot. And that's because we've not allowed our children to have that kind of wisdom, guidance, and we don't want to talk about death, you know. So this is a huge issue in the Muslim community. I've got several cases going on now where children are fighting amongst each other over an estate,
That is sad, yeah.
or
And
someone's
it's
been
quite
left
common.
out. So common now, you know. So it's a huge issue. So it's about upbringing. Bless our parents. I mean, I always say we've got to give them their credit. They're our you know, legends in our communities. The masjids we have, we would never have been able to build those masjids, community centres. What they've achieved and what they've done, I think we would never do it. With all the wealth that we have, and we have a lot more wealth than our elders, we still
education.
we've got the education, but they still have done so much, and hats off to them. But we have different challenges now, completely different challenges that they had, and we have to be mature enough, and I think, you know, smart enough to be able to deal with these challenges. And a lot of that has to be to break down some of these barriers. These should be the last of our worries. Some of the issues that we're talking about now, it's the bigger, you know, getting our children out of these deprived communities and educating them, bringing them to be good citizens, boy or girl, you know. So these are the bigger issues we have, rather than fighting over, you know, the other big fight we have in Manchester is obviously whether you're a blue or a red. Other than that, we don't really care. See, we're going to fall out already.
I'm told we have very little time, so to wrap it up, we'll get a few sort of pointers. Could you share your thoughts on how we can encourage unity beyond ethnicity, focusing on our shared humanity and common goals?
I think from a Muslim perspective, if I can give you an answer, that the Prophet ﷺ, his last sermon kind of sums it up quite well. That he specifically pointed to these issues that we face, and we talk about all these discriminatory issues, the racism that exists within our communities, and the only way we're going to actually flourish and do well is to bring an end to some of this nonsense, really. And the only way, if we put our energy towards the issues that affect our youth, affects, you know, the criminality within our inner cities, within, you know, you've probably got it in Rochdale, and stuff like that, and actually work as a community for the betterment of our community. We are now second generation. Some have been long enough here for third generation. And the stats that we have for education, for advancement in education, in sports, you know, we're still lacking. We're a huge, in Manchester, we're going to be very, very soon one of the majority, Muslim communities is going to be in the majority. in a particular age group. Not a majority as in the whole population of Manchester, but in a particular age group because we're having more children. So in numbers, we're great. But it's not God having numbers. It's not about, the quantity. We need to have good quality.
Yeah.
And
We discussed this just before we were actually live on how parenting plays a part in getting
Huge role.
the
Yeah.
new generation
It's everything.
involved in sports and all the rest of it.
one of the issues I think has always been, and I think this needs to end. Look, none of us, or some of us may be in this room, but most of us are not wealthy enough to have two parallel lives. And I think one of the problems in the South Asian community is people have tried to have a nice, comfortable house or accommodation and living and lifestyle in Pakistan whilst doing the same off a regular wage. And this is a lot of those communities are debt ridden, and this causes so many problems, causes divorce and so many issues. Invest in your children. You've got to invest, and that's time and money. And if you invest in your children, spend time and money on them, and don't look to save and build houses and villas back home, wherever that might be, I think we'll prosper and we'll do so well. And I think just if we focus on the deen, less culture, I think that will bring us closely together as well.
Okay.
I try to keep it as brief as possible.
Yeah. No,
Good answer.
very good answer. I mean, to bring unity, I would like to see a lot more people encouraged into getting off their backsides and actually going in the community and helping. I remember I had a friend of mine, he decided to move out of the neighborhood into, a little bit more of a nicer area. And I said, how come you've moved out? He goes, oh, mashallah, I've got myself a nice job. He goes, I've had a couple of kids. He goes, I can't be bothered living around here. He goes, I've seen the state of it. He goes, look, there's a couple of drug dealers are knocking about, a couple of prostitutes around the other side of the corner on the street. I said, I go, bro, it's all right for yourself. I go, you're moving out. You're looking after yourself. I go, what about the people that you're leaving behind? Exactly. What about us?
Yeah.
The wider
What about
community.
your community?
Yeah.
What about their children? I go, do you not think about them? I go, it's all right, you're going to live in your little circle, in your little bubble, and being all happy and all the rest of it. Nice drive and all the rest of it, doing it up. I go, what about the kids here?
Yeah.
I go, what are you doing for them? I remember politicians, as they come around, the councillors, they come around and knock on the doors, and my father has always invited them in.
Yeah.
Our house has, always been open for all the candidates to come in and talk and all the rest of it. And I pulled up on numerous occasions the councillors in my neighbourhood, and I said to them, because I've always been involved in sports, and may Allah Pak accept it, it's a love that I've got for football and coaching. I've done it for over 25 years in my own little neighbourhood. And alhamdulillah, we get anything between, it could be anything up to 35, 40, 50 kids there on a Saturday morning. And we put our little bit of effort in. That's my passion. That's what I can put on for my community. That's what I can volunteer towards. Well, now we've got a cricketer here, for example. If he could put on a session out, a cricket session, for example, for my community, would that be good? Yeah. We have 20, 30, 40 kids off the street again. For example, you might be business-minded. Could you maybe set up a little session every fortnight? Volunteer and say, right, this is going to be for the high school kids. This is a little program we're going to run. This is going to be maybe some business skills. This could be some presentation skills. We could have maybe someone that could set up a couple of classrooms, some of the intelligent ones that we may have in our community. We've got engineers, doctors, solicitors, and all the rest of it. Look at the intelligence within our own little community.
100%.
Why can't people get up and put on a little bit for our society, for our people in and around our areas, and set up IT classes for these kids? Why are they having to maybe even do, video calls and whatever else to somebody in another part of the world in that they're paying for that tuition? Why can't we do it ourselves? I think we are our problem ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
We are not willing to give any time unless it's suited for our own benefit. We're not willing to help our own communities out. And while we're on that subject of our masjids, I don't believe and I don't think they do enough. This masjid, alhamdulillah, I know Dawood very, very well, and I can see all the work that he does. It's like a community centre in there.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, it's brilliant. It serves its purpose. If you look at our community now, what's happened to KYP? What's happened to BACP? What's happened to Wardworth Community Centre?
Yeah.
What's happened to Gower Street? What's happened to all of these community centres? They've all gone. So where does your kids and my kids go play? Where do they do? Because what they've done, they just centralised it all. They've got rid of all the cuts, the funding posts that were once
That's
upon a
due to
time
government
available
as well,
and
though.
all
That's
that.
some of it's out
it
of our control.
is. But
Yeah.
that was, I
They've
feel,
cut
that
the
was
funding.
And
an
this is what I
opportunity.
like about Hijra, and I always use Hijra as an example when I'm speaking in Rochdale,
Ki-
what they do for the
Khizra
community.
Masjid,
and the wider community and society.
The spaces that we have within our masjids, if you look at Al-Quba, Bilal, Jalaliya, the three big masjids in our community, you tell me they can't open it up from 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock on an evening.
You know,
They would open the door. Sorry, you're gonna
on that
just
topic,
remember on that topic. The masjids will actually start looking to open up. I can guarantee on it. But are you willing to volunteer and watch over them kids? What are you doing? Why don't you get off your backsides and go do something? We're not doing it ourselves, but we're willing to kind of blame, the council are not doing it. Services are not doing it. What are you doing? You tell me you can't, get a simple qualification for maybe, doing your simple first aid course and your child protection, and I'll say you go up and running. And it's free. So I believe our issues that we may have within our society, it stems from us ourselves. I'll ask you in the eye and say, what is it you're doing? You tell me what you're doing. What are you doing for your community? For example, I'm not saying you need to answer it. It's not to you. You know what I'm saying? But let's just say, Ahad now, alhamdulillah, he's into his fitness and everything. Let's just say, as an example, let's just say the nights are getting close by. Let's just say you open up a little session and said, right, we're going to get in the masjid, do a little bit of a circuit training session with you guys every fortnight, boom, boom, boom. And the qualities and the skills that you have as an individual, pass it on to somebody, pass it on to someone. Can I just give one more example before you're going to come in about this topic? There was this brother, very, very, very good friend of mine. He went to Egypt. He learnt tajweed there. He went there for a couple of years. Came back, alhamdulillah, beautiful recitation and everything else. So now I says to him, I go, bro, what's been happening? He goes, I went to Egypt, alhamdulillah, I've learned the Quran and alhamdulillah, it's, beautiful, and he's got all the vocab and you say mashallah, mashallah, akhi, and all that, yeah. So I says to him, I go, bro, you've done well for yourself there, alhamdulillah. I go, but what are you doing for the kids here? I go, tell me what you're doing for the kids here. I go, you know what it is? I go, you're like an amazing book. This is an example I give him. I go, bro, you're like an amazing book. I go, but you put yourself on the shelf that high up. No one can get you down and open you up, brother. I go, what you need to do is, you need to come to eye level. I go, so people can use you, bro. I go, who's stopping you to set up a little class? For example, Dawah Center, they've got a little room there. Jalali can give a little masjid space for somebody. Come and do your own thing. Yeah. You come and do your thing. Why don't they?
I just thought of a joke. I was thinking, if you ever met Elon Musk, you'd be like, yeah, it's good that you've got this £250 million house, but what are you doing for us? Where's our house?
And like I said to you, and
that's a good point, 100%.
And Allah will ask, and Allah will ask upon that as well. Allah will ask upon this.
You know
what I'm saying? Allah will ask. He'll say, I'll give you knowledge, I'll give you whatever else.
Who left the area, I never liked bashing my own town or city. If you ask my wife, I've always been like, Rochdale is the best place you could ever live. I've always been that. I was always pro Rochdale. Because you are the community, you are the town.
You make it, you break it. You make it, you break it. It's up to you. And let's just say if we had 12 lads, girls or boys, in their own fields that could volunteer an hour a week. All right, let's do it an hour a fortnight. 1 hour every fortnight, all different skills that they have and experiences. Yeah. How many things do you think you can set up?
Yeah, loads. Yeah.
But will they volunteer? That's the. Alhamdulillah, amazing, bro. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. From where's that stem from? All volunteers.
Yeah. The point I was going to make in relation to the masjids is that they need to be more open and more accessible. I've always said they're multi-million-pound buildings, and if they're just open for 5 times prayer, I think that's a complete waste of time.
Yeah, and if you go back to Prophet's time, they've done
absolutely
gym, everything. That was the play area.
It was the hub.
We don't allow children to speak loud or have a little bit of a fun in the masjid, so we're too restrictive. Yeah. We need to open up those masjids, and we're having a cafe built at the moment to make it a hub, so people come and have coffees rather than go to.
And then the azan goes off, so need the coffee.
Absolutely. The mosque isn't a playground. Yeah. And in some cultures, in Turkey, for example, they say, or one of the old Ottoman wazirs, he made a comment. He said that the time to worry for Muslims is when you can't hear children playing in the background.
Wow,
Yep.
yeah.
You know, it's powerful.
I was just about to say that actually.
Yeah. So
We'll end it here then. But actually,
the
before
other point I wanted to make on that was on Masjids and us as a community. Volunteer, I 100% accept that. And I always say to people, it's all good and well criticizing and talking, but get involved. Get involved and make a change. Secondly, is we're a lot more financially capable now. There's a few people are coming up now, but we have to look at other communities. Like I work quite closely with the Jewish community. We've got a large Jewish community here. Philanthropy. We don't need to be looking for funds from local authorities. We have enough financial capital ourselves to invest in these small little projects.
like the Jewish community.
It's absolutely nothing.
Which is amazing.
There is a friend of mine, and he knows the chap. There's a chap who provides ambulances to the Jewish community.
Yeah.
I think one ambulance costs £200,000.
They've got their own police.
And this is one individual, and you know, credit where it's due. A brilliant organisation. I think one of them phoned, a friend of mine, he phoned 999, and actually I think someone on 999 said you might as well phone the Jewish ambulance because they will get there quicker because he was from the Jewish community. So we are in a very good position. I think it's a different number. But you get a similar ambulance and they'll come and they'll be there within minutes. Wow. We have a lot of money, a lot of financial capital. We need to invest that in community projects and outreach work.
Yeah, there's no reason why we can't.
You need one trusted person to create a body. This is the problem, I think.
I think we're heading in that direction.
We were talking about this once, weren't we?
Yeah, so, I did met me up outside the masjid, and it was just so simple. And I said, look, if the masjid was to take ownership of its little area, something as simple as a litter pick, imagine the kind of influence that would have on the youngsters in and around, get them involved to do it every fortnightly. Why are we waiting for the council to come and clean up our
our street? Why should
you know
the
what I mean?
council have to come?
You know,
remember the floods happened?
I
like the unity then.
When
in Bangladesh and Pakistan?
No,
we
had the floods in Rochdale.
Local,
and everyone volunteered. We all got involved and we all cleaned up, and it was really good to see actually, because the neighbours were just helping. We knew who we should help. Like this is an elderly person there. Let's go there.
It's good to see Shiri take lead on that.
There's so much goodwill in the community, you know. And the other thing I'll just probably finish with is, look, we're pretty much settled here. When our parents came, they came with the intention of working for a few years, earn a few bob and go back. They never went. We've not gone, and it's unlikely that our children will go. Let's be honest. So we're blessed actually to be in this wonderful country. You know, people criticize it, but alhamdulillah, I probably wouldn't be where I am in the position I am now without the education, the guidance, and people largely non-Muslim along the way, as well as my parents. Alhamdulillah, that's been the biggest guidance for me. But even other people in the community, my schools, my teachers, my coaches, when I was playing kind of semi-professional cricket. So all that has made me what it is. Ultimately, it's from the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and my parents. But I mean, we're blessed to have all that to get us to where we are. And we should be grateful for that. And really, as a Muslim, I feel I'm duty bound to pass that on to other people. And when I say to our children, I don't mean my children, my 4 children, your children and your children, even the non-Muslim children out there, they are our children. So when I'm involved in education, I want a betterment for the whole community. And I think, you know, there's a hadith that, you know, we should be a benefit to society, and it doesn't specify Muslim or non-Muslim. So we have a huge duty, and I think, you know, being a Muslim, there's an added duty that we ought to do more than what perhaps the fellow Englishman might do. We have to do it because we're duty bound to do it.
It's also a form of dawah.
Of course
Absolutely.
It is. Of course it is.
You know, I've always been conscious of that. Even driving, I'll give way to someone who I feel...
It's manners, isn't it?
Yeah, and because I'm always conscious thinking that's probably their first interaction with a Muslim, and that their perception could change.
It does inevitably change because the media has portrayed us in a particular way as Muslims. So your first encounter may be the last encounter, and it has to be a positive impression. And unfortunately, in certain areas, you'll get Muslims behaving in a manner which is not befitting of a Muslim or befitting of a citizen of this country, and it's terrible. We ought to have the best of manners and have the best of behaviour, and that's ultimately when we will flourish as a community, I think.
Inshallah.
Any last words?
No, is there any events or cultural sort of celebration which the community hosts that other communities can get involved? How can they get involved? Anything that you guys do? Any projects?
Recent?
No, anything
that's coming up.
In Manchester, to be honest with you, every event is open to the community, and we get a wide We get people coming from other areas, so it's
Yeah.
never
I
an
see-
issue for
I see it
Manchester.
in
We're just
Fidra all the
it's
time.
never
Yeah.
ever been a particular community, you know. And the other thing we perhaps didn't touch upon as much is giving women more of a role as well, because they're quite often just locked away or perhaps not given that credibility and respect that they ought to have. And that's half of our community, and we've got so much intellect, so much, you know, so much wisdom there, and they are the next mothers of our daughters.
That question
So,
actually made
yeah,
me think. What I found is like even networking. I've never met you, even though you've worked with Ajit for over 10 years.
Yeah, too long.
And you know when you're when you go to these masjids or events, you meet people, and sometimes you become friends through it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And especially in like this day and age where everything is online, so they don't get to meet anyone. And one of the reasons they don't get to create have any new friends or anything like that. So
it's important.
It's something to push.
I mean, Islam, I always say, is a religion of it's a social religion.
Yeah.
Why do we encouraged to go to the mosque? Because you pray in congregation.
Yeah.
And if somebody there who's not praying or you've not seen, you're supposed to call upon their house.
Yeah.
We are a very social religion.
Yeah.
It's all about all our occasions, all our religious occasions. It's all about food and getting together and having all these gatherings. So, and you know, that will fight off dementia as well. Socialization is key to our religion.
Absolutely, massive.
And it keeps that connection within the community, within families. I mean, I'm not, you know, a scholar, but I know that in the Quran it talks about remembering Allah and obviously worshipping Allah, but also keeping ties of kinship.
Yeah.
And this is something that our community unfortunately takes for granted.
Yeah.
You know, that ties of kinship are so important for our children, for ourselves, and even when your parents pass away. You know, isn't there a hadith about when the Prophet looking after his wife's friends, the elders? So it doesn't even extend to just your family. It's so broad, and it's amazing, because if you truly believe that, you'll not only look after your brothers and sisters, your mamas, your uncles, your aunts, and your children, your community, your relatives, your distant relatives.
There's actually
and you'd have a desire to go and see them and look after them. It's beautiful.
Yeah. There's actually a hadith where he gives food to Khadija's.
That's right, his sister. He heard a sister, or there was an occasion or whatever, and he specifically made a point after she passed away to share that food, whatever it was, with the sisters or the family of Khadija, his wife who passed away.
That actually
Beautiful.
Always, I remember this all the time, because
one of the other big issues we have is loneliness in this country. We shouldn't have any loneliness within the Muslim community, and we should reach out to the non-Muslim community. You know, befriend them, and that's what we're here for. You know, to be there for all the people in our community. But you got to break down those barriers.
I think one of the barriers that we've got in Rochdale, and is quite profound, is at the events that the masjids hold. It has that then stigma of it just being for that particular masjid. That's
It's really sad. That's sad.
massively. I mean, you know, alhamdulillah, you know, Jalali Masjid,
even the
amazing work that they do in regarding that particular masjid. And I always say to them is, why didn't you invite the masjid 100 meters away from you? You know, are they not your Muslim brothers and sisters?
Well, there's a local masjid here that discourages the attenders to attend the local masjid on the other side.
Thing is, I mean,
I think you get this in all kind of areas, and we're probably not.
You're a bit defensive.
So so we get that as well here in the community. But again, you have to rise above it.
You have to.
And if they don't, fine, we'll still invite them, and you're more than welcome.
And I think with the children, I think they don't know anything any better at that time.
But your problem is, you're right, they don't know. But the problem is, if some of our Muslims, some of our elders, instill this kind of divisiveness, to say we're a different sect or a different community or a different sect of Islam and whatever, this causes division. This is wrong, completely wrong. And this must be diverted and avoided at all costs.
I mean, like City, that's the divide that we have within our society as well. You know, where you'll see the Bilal Masjid doing an event. I mean, you know, Milad is going on now and all the rest of it. I mean, some people are, you know, social media platforms and all the rest of it, they're absolutely knocking them for all sorts. You know, they're knocking them,
criticizing them.
You know,
I'll be getting aggressive.
I don't think they'll ever get aggressive, but you know,
being critical of them.
Being very critical of what they're doing and what they're not doing. Is it the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? And all the rest of it. And I think sometimes, and a lot of the times,
see, I've never liked that approach.
You know, I think what we do too often is, especially when it comes to Aqidah and all the rest of it, whichever fiqh they're following, at the end of the day, we always will pick out on the the 5% that we are not
That's
similar
right.
with.
Yeah.
You know, the 95% of everything that we do together, we don't promote that.
Yeah,
But you know, the
100%.
5%, that little bit of slight difference, that is the one that they'll highlight
It should be the
to
opposite.
the mountains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was a part of this. There was a debate of a Muslim and non-Muslim, and this is why I don't like this aggressive way of doing this, because ego would allow you not to, even if you think that that person is right, you don't want to go with them because they were abusive, aggressive. If there was a Muslim and a non-Muslim talking, and then the Muslim goes, "You know, you're going hellfire," and so that experience will never allow them to want to. You're supposed to invite.
Well, there's an etiquette,
Dawah
isn't
is
there?
inviting.
Counterproductive.
Yeah.
You're trying to invite them to the religion. Flower it up.
I think what
Show
we
the
have,
positive.
we should accept differences.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You know, we should accept differences. If you,
But respect.
No, I was
Yeah.
actually going to read this quote from the Quran. It's like, "All mankind, indeed, we have created you from male and female, made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted." So it's fine just to know each other, and like the differences is fine.
Absolutely. Allah's told us that.
It's creating the divide.
it's accepting
through
it,
that.
isn't it? It's accepting it. At the end of the day, you know, if people are doing certain things slightly, and I mean, you know, slightly differently to what your belief is,
Yeah.
again, look at your similarities. You know,
We
promote
have
your
more in common.
similarities. You know,
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a good point.
You know, honestly, one of my reasons why I even starting this podcast, I like understanding people.
Mm.
You know, you see, you even look at this person loves R&B, he hates someone with loves rock. This person is a Man United fan, he's a Man City fan. Like I've seen, even if I go go in gym, if I go to play football, they'll be like, oh, he's a bodybuilder, he's a MMA guy. Going back to football, I'll stop football. You get injured too much. It's like they've created these groups and divides. Everyone
Yeah,
wants
if you're
it.
looking for differences, you're always going to find.
You're always gonna
anything.
find
You
it.
don't have to look far, do you?
Yeah.
But it's a really good point, though, that we have more in common, regardless as to where you're from, culturally, Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, even religious-wise. We've got more in common, and it's unfortunate that there's people in our communities who cause that divisiveness and that, you know, that animosity amongst them and saying that the other person's wrong. That needs to stop.
They need to
really.
stop because, like I said, they will be held accountable for it.
Some people actually have
You
a
know.
problem though. They actually just fixated on the differences.
Yeah.
Every year that comes along, they come out with all the messages.
Yeah,
It's
you
the same
see it
stuff,
all the
isn't it?
time.
The same stuff.
Yeah.
The Sunnah guy is pretty popular on Instagram, and he posted. He's got friends that celebrate Milad. They're doing it for the sake of their love for the Prophet. So leave them to it.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do it because you want to follow the Sunnah Prophet, you don't need to do it either. Just everyone just do what you think is right. And then this specific person sends me messages every year about Milad.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
sent me that, and I was like, alhamdulillah, finally, brother, send me something good here.
Yeah.
Next day, he's like, all these reasons why you should do it.
I actually, the same person you're talking about, I actually said to him, so if I don't do it, is it a sin? I said, no. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to continue to do what Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has, he recommended and that he's done himself. So the golden rule is, has he said and done it himself? But that's another
complete conversation.
Yeah.
My kind of response to that will be: we've got bigger issues,
Yeah.
Yes.
bigger fish to fry.
Yeah,
than
100%.
these.
Bigger issues, 100%.
And this is why I don't.
And we were trying to, that's why we want to get into that, because we're trying to get commonalities here.
We're trying to unity. You know, that's what we want to see.
I think,
discuss this topic. Just leave it.
I think we're in a good place, as the Asian community. I think there's a lot of work to do, but alhamdulillah, with brothers,
Even
like
this
the
is
people around this
progressive.
room, it is.
Yeah.
And that we're able to have these frank and honest discussions. And I think, alhamdulillah, the future's good. The future's good for us here. We've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But alhamdulillah, by breaking down these barriers, I think we've come a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, who could have imagined we would have like interracial marriages now, amongst the Pakistani, Bengali, Indian communities. If you went back 30, 40 years, it would be unheard of. Absolutely no chance. So we've come a long way.
Yeah.
And I think the closer we get to the religion of Islam, the real Islam, those barriers will be broken down further and further, inshallah. And we should be able to live in peace and harmony. But I think we have to always aim high. as Muslims, we ought to. One of my biggest issues is actually education and making sure that our next generations have the best of jobs, have access to all those kind of facilities that perhaps even we didn't have. So we have to invest and educate our children, both in deen and dunya,
help each other,
and help each other as well. I mean, as a Muslim, I know for a fact that whatever I'm destined for, I will get that, and there's no one, nothing can, no one can do anything to prevent that from coming. So why shouldn't I help someone? You know, Ajit knows this, and we've helped so many other people set up in practice and set up businesses.
Yeah.
You know, and it gives us great pleasure to see them do well, because I know
because we always afford opportunities to youngsters coming through the ranks, you know, looking for work experience, and this is something that Jawad and I always offer, you know, to everyone comes through the door. We're trying to give them a platform, provide an opportunity for them to obviously develop their career.
I mean, we have a small law firm, and we give more work placements as a practice than probably the biggest law firm in the country. I've worked in the city, and you know, that is purely from a religious perspective, a Salaga perspective. We don't look at whether it's a boy or girl, Muslim or non-Muslim, anyone that comes through and wants it, because we feel strongly, and I know from my own experiences, the only way these people will find jobs is if they've got work experience. Because when you go for a job, they say, what experience do you have? But nobody affords them that experience. So from my own kind of issues that I had when I was looking for a job, I make sure that we afford those opportunities to kids. And, you know, it's just amazing. I'll give you a little example. There was one child who went for a meal with a family, and there was a child there with their parents. And they said, you know, what brings you here for a meal? And he said, our son's just graduated. And he said, the wife or the mother of the child said, thanks to you. And I couldn't even remember this kid. I vaguely remember seeing him. I thought, who on earth is this chap? And the parents said, well, you remember he did a work placement? I said, kind of, vaguely, but yeah. Well, you kind of persuaded him, encouraged him to go on to further education because he didn't want to. So, you know, these small things are not to take for granted, you know. So if we can make a small difference to that one child, and we're never going to change the entire society, but if we can change the well-being of one child, we've achieved our objective. Yeah. That has to be the ultimate goal, to try to change every person we can, Muslim or non-Muslim. And alhamdulillah, we've achieved our objective. Obviously, the more we do, the better. That's why the point the brother made earlier is that more of us need to get involved and stop talking from the back lines. You know, these keyboard warriors, get up and do something. Make a difference in your society.
100%. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, shall we end here?
I think so, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting us.
Two legends from two different areas.
I think we could be talking.
I know, yeah.
A lot longer. We could talk for a week.
Perhaps for the second episode.
It's like when the Asian goodbyes, you try and end it and then you start off another conversation.
No.
The 4 stages of goodbyes. One you stand up and you hug and you meet at the sofa, and then of course at the door, and then outside the car, and then whilst you're in the car with the window down. So the 4 stages. And then on the phone. And then when you get home to confirm. But you know what? It's beautiful. Think about it, man. You know, I was always taught when I grew up, when your guest is leaving the house, you stand there till they've gone down the road. And I still do it to this very day. You know, you walk them to the door, you get them in the car, and then you see them off.
My mum does that all the time.
And I've got that from my parents, and I still do it. And I think it's beautiful because you have a care and a concern. Absolutely, man. This is why culturally, I think there's still merit in having a connection with our country of origin. There's so much cultural heritage that we have. And I take my children, not for the last 2 years, but otherwise, I take them every year to Pakistan. And they're fascinated by it. And if you ask my children, they've been all around the world, alhamdulillah. But when you tell them, where would you like to go on holiday? They say Pakistan.
Is it? Oh,
they absolutely love it. They adore it. And culturally, it enriches them.
Do you do things with them?
Yeah. When we go there, we don't stay around. We're from a village, a very, very poor village, when my parents grew up. But we just get out and about,
really good.
And it's awesome. And if you look at the middle classes in this country where we're born and bred, they do a lot of traveling. And the reason why they're have so much exposure is because of that travel. Why do university kids generally go away after university, go traveling for a year? It enriches them. It gives them so much exposure. I mean, I remember
traveling definitely.
I wanted to.
I was just traveling for a few months.
Yeah,
like most of South Asia.
Yeah,
I went Japan,
amazing,
Thailand,
amazing.
Indonesia, Malaysia.
And you probably,
And I came back.
Completely.
I keep saying to him, I came back different.
I bet you have.
Completely different mentality. I think differently.
I tried to do the same. So I graduated. Said to my parents, "I'd like to go traveling." Well, where to? So I said, around the world. I said, how long? I said, well, I know years is going to be a push of 6 months. So they said, you've got 6 days. And that was the end of that. So that never materialized.
Let's on the end of
That
that.
never materialized, but that was then.
Went to Old Trafford and got back.
That's it. Alhamdulillah.
Well,
Yeah,
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. I appreciate
thank you very
it.
much.
No,
Thank you.
alhamdulillah.
I hope the listeners were inspired
Inshallah.
by this discussion. There's
Sit
more
back
to
down.
come. I'm sure we'll invite these guests again as well at some
Inshallah.
point.
Why not?
But be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and all the rest of it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
very much.